We are live. Hey, everybody. Tim Fullerton here from the Find Out podcast. Glad you could join us today. We have a really special guest with us who is doing everything that she can to stop this horrible gerrymander that's happening in Texas. We have Texas State Rep Gina Hinjosa.
That's
Did I
it.
get it right?
You got
Yes. All right. Yes. Thank you for joining us today, Gina. We really
my
appreciate
pleasure.
it.
It's my
So,
pleasure.
tell our audience what is going on in Texas right now, and what is the governor trying to do?
Well, backdrop, we just had this terrible July 4th flood that took the lives of over 137 Texans, a lot of children, whole families, communities devastated, right? So we are in an emergency 30-day special session. Except that Republicans in the Texas legislature are using most of that time to pass the Trump maps to pick up 5 additional Republican seats in the U.S. Congress in the 2026 midterms. It is shameful. It is wrong.
Yeah, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is something that's supposed to be happening once every 10 years, as mandated by the Constitution. It sounds to me like this is an unprecedented power grab. Is it not?
It is. We have done middle of cycle redistricting in 2003. That was when Tom DeLay pushed us to do it. By the way, he ended up being prosecuted and went to court, and there was whole scandal around that. So here we are again. The difference is this. The difference is that our governor is citing for his reason for this the letter from U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi that says these districts are being targeted for elimination because they are Black and brown districts. So, for the first time in our history, possibly since Crow, our government is targeting for elimination districts that are Black and brown, and their stated reason is because they are Black and brown.
I mean, it's just unbelievable. And I think if folks don't know, Texas was already fairly gerrymandered as it was, correct? Like they already had a structural advantage outside of the fact that I'm not even sure what the registration breakdown between Republicans and Democrats are, but it's a much narrower difference than what we see as far as the House makeup is concerned.
Absolutely. And especially when you look at racial gerrymandering. We were in court, federal court last month fighting the current maps, the 2021 maps, because they were already the most racially gerrymandered in the whole nation. Now they're coming back and they're making them worse. Interestingly, and I think key, in those lawsuits, the state of Texas claimed they didn't use race in the consideration of making these maps. Now they're saying we have to go and do those districts that are predominantly Black and brown because race was taken into account. So either they're lying now or they were lying in court under oath that just
Right.
last.
And if correct me if I'm wrong, and you are an attorney by
Yes,
trade, correct? Like it
right.
were you part of the team that sued Tom DeLay back when that happened? Was that you?
I was a baby lawyer. Yes.
Well, thank you. I was in DC when Tom DeLay was there, and I was very glad to see him finally being held accountable. So thank you for that. So I understand that there was a similar redistricting case in Alabama a few years ago, in which the Supreme Court actually said they had to go back and redraw them more favorably for Democrats, mostly for the exact same reason that you're saying they're getting rid of them, that it was very clear that they were racially segregating districts in order to minimize the amount of power that Black and brown people have. Is there a difference here, or walk us through that? Because I know this stuff gets a little technical from a legal perspective.
Yeah. Well, what's important to understand is that this legal theory that the U.S. Department of Justice is pushing now is a novel legal theory, right? So the big concern nationally is if they're able to get away with it in Texas, that they're going to take it to other states and use this same theory where they are dividing up Black and brown communities to minimize their ability to elect the person of their choice, right? We call it cracking districts, right? They're cracking these communities so that, and they're putting a few Latinos from this area and a few from this area that are low voting low voter turnout, and they're putting them together, claiming that that is a majority Latino opportunity district. But in fact, we all know the truth. They are using the Latino community as an excuse to gain more seats. Their ultimate goal is to gain more seats, but they're doing it through race.
Right. Well, hopefully I mean, I know this will, if they get it through, it will go to the Supreme Court. So it'll be really interesting to watch that Supreme Court twist themselves in knots if they're going to try to justify this one when this exact court, I think with all the same justices, ruled a few years ago that it was illegal. So it will be really interesting. But tell us a little bit for our audience. The five. Do you know the five members that will be affected? Because I know a lot of people have been asking me. Is Jasmine Crockett one of those districts that they're
Yes.
looking at? It is, right?
I just left actually the hearing where Jasmine Crockett was testifying. She has been removed from the district that she represents. What just came out in testimony actually is that Texas, the state of Texas, asked each of our members of Congress for their address before these maps were released. So that just came out in her testimony. That was news to most of us. So yes, this was very intentional. Most all Texas members of Congress who are Democrats are no longer in their districts.
It's just, it's just unbelievable. And I know before we get to the end, I want to make sure people are hearing this now. How can people help you right now with this?
Yeah. So I'm in the state house, so I can't make campaign solicitations while I'm here. That's unlawful. What I will say is follow our social media because we're going to be putting out asks for help through social media, whether it's to our Democratic caucus. I am vice chair of the Progressive Caucus and leading the fight against redistricting for the Progressive Caucus. And, we're the tip of the spear in this fight, willing to do what it takes to win.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say to the audience, like there is, these fights are not cheap. It's not just people in the state house fighting. This requires lawyers and all those types of things. So I highly recommend you go check out the social media accounts, and we'll put something out as well, a link so that people can have direct access to that. So, what is the reaction from the public? I mean, this is a fairly, for most people, they don't really understand what this is. What are you hearing from your constituents, and what are you hearing from other people's constituents about this?
I love that question because that's the part that inspires me. Know that this issue was added to the agenda about 2 weeks ago. So it's new. The map was released day before yesterday. Even before the map, the egregious racist map was released, we had 1,000 people turn out to testify in Arlington. Hundreds and hundreds of people here in Austin, same in Houston. And so are ready for a fight. They're not going to take this lying down. And I was talking to Beto about this the other day, last week, and he said, this is a gift because so many Americans want to take the fight directly to Trump and they can't, and we can, right? And so we're fighting to win. We see ways to win. And I'm energized by this fight.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting because we on the Find Out podcast are always talking about we want Democrats to fight because Republicans fight and they fight dirty and they do it all the time. And we generally tend to be like, well, we're trying to like trust the process and everything. And I think it's great to see people waking up and saying, no, like if they're not going to do this, we need to push back. And that's the thing about the audience that's listening right now. You can do things. And like I said, go check out the social media profiles and we'll like put that up. There's things you can do. Other states are also thinking, so I want to go to this part because obviously now everyone is outraged about what Governor Abbott and the Republicans in Austin are trying to do right now. And other states like blue states, I'm in New York, for example, Kathy Hochul has talked about potentially looking at reopening our redistricting, which we just did 2 years ago as well. And Gavin Newsom, governor of California, has obviously been very strong in his, like, if you do this, we will do it. And I think Pritzker and Illinois, some of the places where we have the trifecta, meaning we have the governor's office and the two legislative branches, are talking about this too. So part of me, it feels like that this could potentially really backfire on them because we actually have a structural advantage in this dirty I'm going to call it a dirty game because it is a dirty game. I don't think anybody on our side really likes gerrymandering at all. We're kind of forced into this. What do you think about what Gavin Newsom and Kathy Hochul have been saying about as far as doing this retaliatory measure?
Well, I understand it because they've got to protect their constituents. And the thing about this Texas fight is what happens here will impact every single one of their constituents. The polls and predictions are that Democrats flip the US Congress in the midterms, right? Unless Trump is successful in this effort, right? He's running scared. He doesn't want to face the voters. So he's trying to silence the voters with this effort. So, sure, other governors of Democratic states are trying to figure out what they can do to protect their own constituents. I mean, think about the damage that's already been done by President Trump. We have schools going without, we have children going without food, we have healthcare being taken away from 17 million Americans. The list goes on. That's just here in the United States of America, not even to mention what's going on around the world. So things are dire and they're just going to get worse if we don't do everything that we can to stop Trump now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's some estimates out there, and I'm very bullish on next year if all things remain equal. Like, there's a real chance Democrats could pick up 40 seats next year because we're obviously seeing a softening of the economy. The jobs numbers today were not good, and then the revisions over the past 2 days or 2 months, excuse me, revised down 258,000, and today this month's was only 73,000. And with the passage of the, well, excuse my language, but the big bullshit bill, because I don't call it the other thing that he decided to name it, cut $1.1 trillion of Medicaid. And they know how unpopular that is. As you said, tens of millions of Americans are going to lose their health insurance. Families are going to lose their food assistance. And so when you think about it's first of all, it's horrific on all levels, but then they're also not going to be able to spend money on other things because then they're going to need to use all their money on that. Republicans know this, and I think that's the reason I assume that Governor Abbott has decided to try this sort of ridiculous measure. So what is I don't know the breakdown of the House in Texas as far as the Democrats and Republicans. Are the Republicans in lockstep with this, or are there folks that are pretty frustrated and are not for this?
Well, when you talk to people privately, they are not for it.
Yeah.
But they are yes men for Trump. They fear Trump. They are not free to act. We just had this fight on vouchers, school vouchers. We call this a voucher scam here in Texas, where many Republicans disagreed with it, but Trump called in the day of the vote and insisted that they all vote in lockstep for vouchers. And so we lost that fight this time. When last legislative session, we had Republicans voting with us, and we were able to stop it in the regular session and in 5 special sessions after that, right? But Trump called them in and gave them their orders, and Abbott's no different.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that I think we've learned at this point, both at the state and federal level, that it is Trump's way or no way in the Republican Party, which is just ridiculous and outrageous for all kinds of reasons, including the fact that Donald Trump raised taxes on everybody with these tariffs that he just announced yesterday. Like the minimums of 15% across the board. All of a sudden, Republicans seem to be okay with raising taxes, which is interesting. I guess as long as you call them tariffs, that's okay. But it's hard to keep track of all of the hypocrisies and the inaccuracies. So, and I know we've only got a couple more minutes with you, but you how do you think that this is going to? So there's a Senate race in Texas next year. We've got a bunch of candidates that are in. I think there's some others that are probably jumping in as well. To me, it seems like this could potentially give, as awful as it is, and I don't want it to happen. But if they do go through this, it does feel like that could almost be a shot in the arm for that Senate seat. In particular, if your Attorney General Ken Paxton manages to knock off John Cornyn. Paxton, for those who don't know, has been impeached once before, and I guess was found innocent, or the governor didn't remove him, or whatever it was. But anyways, is like this horribly crooked guy whose wife even just came out against him because it was very clear he was unfaithful there. So I do feel like if he is in, we have a shot at that race. I would think, depending on the candidate that wins the primary.
Absolutely. Texas is ripe for being a purple state. The Latino community is kind of in flux, right? But if we make a strong showing, and let me understand, the reason the Latino community is in flux is because Republicans have poured so much money because they have endless amounts of money into those communities, right? They've been working this ground. We need to do the same as Democrats. We need to make sure that we're investing in Texas. We call Texas the ATM that sends money outward. We need to invest, raise for Texas because everything bad, I feel like, starts here. All the national stuff, abortion ban, all the bad stuff starts here and goes out that way. If we can get Texas under control, then I think it's good for all of America.
100%. And I don't, for folks who don't know about Texas politics, I mean, Governor Abbott has been just an abject disaster for a lot of reasons. I mean, you go back to the electricity, when the electricity went out during the storm a few years ago, part of the reason was because the state of Texas decided they didn't want to be they didn't want the regulatory issue of being connected to the national grid. And that's, people are like, I don't like regulations. Well, that was a regulation they ignored, and look what happened. I think that we've seen the child mortality rates have increased in Texas after these abortion bans have gone into effect. Like, there are real things that he has done that are damaging, and it's just really, really awful to see. Uh-oh, are we frozen? Oh no, am I frozen? Oh. Well, I tell you what, guys, it was time to go anyways. I think we had some internet connectivity problems there, but that's okay because the Texas representative needed to get back to doing the work of the people and trying to stop this gerrymander from happening. So she's off. I'm not in the Capitol, so I could tell you that they have a legal defense fund that they have set up. You should go donate it to it because, like she said, if we don't stop this, um, they're going to try it in different states. So if you can afford $5, $10, $15, $25, it's going to be really, really important. The other thing that we need to do is also give money to the Texas Democratic Party. The only way we're going to take that state back is if we start at the local level and we get candidates that are really good. So let's do that. Arlene, hello. And this horrible gerrymandering thing is just a nightmare waiting. So I hope that the governors of California and New York will be able to dissuade them because we will go after our seats. And yes, Sylvia, Jasmine Crockett is one of the districts that they have targeted. So with that, the only thing I see, we got 78 people here, which is great. We're going to start doing more lives, I think. But one of the things we need help with from you all is supporting our Substack with both free and paid memberships. We are trying to make this a media company. We're going all in. We're trying to move men to the left so that we get more people on the Democratic side and we win these elections. We don't have to worry about these gerrymanders. But we do need your support to make that happen, whether it's a membership on our Substack, or we have merchandise too, which you can get at findoutpodcast.com. 100% made in America and union made. We live our values. Thank you so much. I see Sylvia says you guys have a great podcast. Next week, Texas representative is here. Gina, I just kept going. I know you had some connectivity issues. I encourage people to support your efforts. I don't think I can bring you back in for a final. No, it's not going to let me do it. But that's okay. I've told everybody to go support Texas Democrats. Go support your social media accounts and see what's on there. And maybe there's ways that people can help there as well. But this is a really important fight, everybody. This is serious business. Texas could take 5 Democratic seats away from us, which means we have to win 10 just to get control next year. That is not sustainable. We need to stop that. Otherwise, all these states are going to open up and it's going to be chaos. So it's really, really important. Yes. And please support Gina and all of her efforts. Follow her social media accounts. Follow Texas Democrats. We all have your back, though, Gina, at the Find Out podcast. I know you only got a chance to meet me, but hopefully when this fight is over and you have won, we will have you back on and we will talk about that, or we will talk about other ways to make difference. So with that, we've been going for about 30 minutes, so I am going to wrap this up now. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Please become a subscriber to Find Out. check out that merchandise at Find Out Podcasts so we can keep building this into a big powerhouse so that we can take power back for the people. Thank you very much, guys. And we will be back on air again very soon. Next week, we're actually going to be at Netroots Nation. We have a lot of content coming out from there. So if you're at Netroots Nation, let me know. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.